Hey guys, for this video today, this will be the second straight video where I talk about something that I've never talked about on this channel before. And for this video today, I want to sit down and share my thoughts for the first time on this channel about the National Hockey League's current playoff format. Now, as of right now, the playoff format, in my opinion, is not my favorite, and I will explain why later on in the video. But as of right now, I mean, even with the current playoff format, I'm a believer that at the end of the day, the best team is going to win the Stanley Cup, whether it's this playoff format or the old playoff format, which instead of having the top 3 seeds set aside for the division leaders, now you only set aside the top 2 seeds because there's only 4 divisions and 2 in each conference, eh? But yeah, I mean, as of right now, the current format is the way it is. It's not the end of the world. I think it's okay the way it is, but I will be honest, it's not my favorite. And for the record, if you guys disagree with me on this, I totally understand. I don't expect everybody to agree with me on this, because I know there's people that think that this current format is great the way it is. And if you feel that way, all the power to you. I mean, I've even heard people talking about a playoff format where the top teams get a bye. See, I don't like that idea because I feel that the top teams would be more likely to get rusty. I like the idea of all of the teams having to play in every round. So for that reason, I don't like the idea of there being a bye for anybody. And with the current format, well, I'll talk about my feelings regarding the current format shortly. But I want to quickly run through how the current playoff format works. So the playoffs are in a more divisional-based format where the top team in each division plays a wild card team, where the wild card team may not necessarily be from their division. And, you know, the way it works is like, for example, in the Western Conference, you had the Central Division winning Nashville Predators playing the first wild card seed, the Dallas Stars. So then, of course, Dallas upset Nashville, and all of the first place division winning teams are already eliminated in the first round for the first time ever. I'm still in shock that not only has this happened, especially with how Tampa Bay was swept, but I'm completely blown away with the fact that Carolina defeated Washington, the fact that Calgary was so easily overwhelmed by Colorado, and the biggest shocker for me, on top of Tampa Bay being swept and Pittsburgh being swept, like those two, that was the biggest shock for me, seeing Tampa Bay get swept. When they tied the all-time record for most wins in a regular season of all time, the highest amount of wins all time in a regular season, swept by Columbus, that blew me away. Even seeing Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Penguins being swept by the Islanders, that blew me away. Colorado overwhelming Calgary in 5 games blew me away. I mean, I predicted St. Louis to beat Winnipeg. And I was 50-50 on my thoughts that, you know what, maybe Dallas does upset Nashville. I was expecting Nashville to win, so I was wrong in my prediction, but I did have a feeling that Dallas could pull it off. I certainly didn't think that Carolina was going to beat Washington and eliminate them in the first round. But the biggest shock for me was the fact that the Vegas Golden Knights are already eliminated. I did not expect San Jose to come back from 3-1 down and defeat the Golden Knights. I mean, I honestly thought the Golden Knights were going all the way to the Stanley Cup final and winning the entire thing this year. So in my last video, I was totally wrong. And I'm shocked, by the way. And congratulations to the San Jose Sharks. I mean, I was not expecting that. I don't think anybody was. But with the way things are going in the playoffs right now, I mean, anybody could win the cup at this point. That's remaining, of course. But anyways, a quick rundown of the way the divisional format works. The first place team in each division plays a wild card team, where the first place division winning team with the highest points plays the lowest seed, kind of like a first versus 8 situation, pretty much. Then in the East, of course, you had Tampa Bay, by far and away the best team in the regular season by a mile, playing Columbus. They were swept. Then the two middle teams, Toronto and Boston in the Atlantic, played. Boston won. They're playing Columbus tonight. It is April 25th, 2019 as I'm filming this. And then so on and so on, where the Islanders and the Penguins were the two middlemen teams in the Metropolitan. New York swept them, so now they're moving on to play Carolina, and then Carolina upset Washington last night. So anyways, the way it works is the division winners play a wild card team, and then the two teams in the middle play each other. I mean, in theory, the format works. In theory it works, and literally it does work. For myself, for anybody wondering, for myself, I would prefer the NHL to go back to the first versus 8, second, 7, third, 6, 4th, 5th format. The old format from before this change. Now, what I would do is I would have it so that the two division winning teams, of course, take the top 2 seeds. And the thing is, if they did go back to that format, what I think a lot of people would probably like, and I think, honestly, I like it too, you would have 2 teams that are not division winners that would have home ice advantage. Well, you already have that now, but compared to the old format of the first 3 teams, the division winning teams, which there were 3 divisions in each conference before the NHL expanded, realigned their divisions. And then, of course, last season, the Vegas Golden Knights entered the NHL, and soon we're going to have a team in Seattle, which I'm looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to seeing the NHL with 32 teams instead of 31. That way it'll be an even number, and it's going to be a lot better, in my opinion. But with the first 2 teams being the division winners, then you've got the 2 third and fourth place teams getting home ice advantage, which could be from any division. What I like about the old format, to be honest, is that I find that you get a little bit more variety. I notice sometimes that the divisional matchups are a little bit predictable, which is not a bad thing. But I will be honest, I think sometimes it would be better if there was a little bit more variety in the playoff matches. Like, we know that Toronto and Boston have played each other in back-to-back seasons, and it's not always going to be the same teams playing each other. But with the current format, you get higher odds that certain matchups are going to happen more often, especially in the first round, which, in my opinion, is not the end of the world, but at the same time, I'm not totally a lover of it either, to be quite frank. Last season, in back-to-back years, San Jose's played the Golden Knights. Last year they met in the second round. This year they met in the first round. So let's forget about that one. So they didn't play each other in the same round in back-to-back years. So really the only teams that have is Toronto and Boston. Only one playoff matchup being the same in back-to-back years in the same round. It's not, as I say this, it's not totally terrible. But on the other side of the coin, the playoff matchups would have been different if we had the old format. So even with there only being 2 division champions instead of 3, which is totally fine with me, you would obviously have Tampa Bay in first, and they would still be playing Columbus. So whether it's this format or the old format, at the end of the day, if you're a Tampa Bay Lightning fan, I got bad news for you. You were screwed either way. And it sucks that I have to say this to anybody, but unfortunately, some teams win and some teams lose, and that's just the way it is. But in this case, sorry Tampa fans, sorry Flames fans, but you would have been playing your teams anyway. So that's why I feel that the current playoff format is fine the way it is. But on the other side of the coin, what I do like about the other format, though, is that I do think that really, I like the idea of there being less certainty in some of the matches. You'd get a little bit more variety, and some of the matchups would be different had we had the old format. Like, for example, Tampa Bay fans, sorry, but you would have been stuck with Columbus anyway. You finished first. You were supposed to easily take care of Columbus. Everybody and their dog predicted this. Your team got swept, and that's the truth. If it was the top two teams being divisional winners, Washington fans, well, folks, if you're a Capitals fan, you'd still be stuck with Carolina, and you would still get upset in 7 games. Now, here's where it would get a little bit interesting, though. Instead of Boston playing Toronto, Boston would have played the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the New York Islanders would have been playing the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, that's pretty interesting if you ask me. So really, with Washington being out and Boston being the highest seed left, they'd be third. Toronto and the Islanders, well, with how the Islanders were able to sweep the Pittsburgh Penguins of all teams, well, I would say the Islanders would have probably beat Toronto. So you've got 3rd place Boston, 4th place Islanders, 7th place Carolina, and 8th place Columbus. Well, here's the irony in it. Under the current format, those teams are all playing each other. Boston's playing Columbus, and the Islanders are playing Carolina. True story. So really, you still get the same second round matchups overall, in theory. But at the same time, if you look at the format, in the first round, instead of Boston and Toronto, you would have got Boston and Pittsburgh, and you would have got the Islanders and Toronto. I mean, you never know. Maybe perhaps Pittsburgh might have upset Boston. With how they got swept by the Islanders, I would say that Boston probably would have beat the Penguins too, in theory. But what if they didn't? But at the same time, what if Toronto didn't play Boston? I mean, what if the Islanders didn't play Pittsburgh? Maybe Toronto would knock them out. I mean, the formats can go any way. I mean, it's up to the teams to win their games and move on, whether it's the old format or the current format. I mean, I like the idea of 1 versus 8 and so on myself, but the current format, what I'm saying is that the current format seems to work out just fine, at least in my opinion. But for me, I actually think that it sometimes is it would be better if the 3rd place team was playing the 6th place team. I mean, if you look at the way the playoffs worked out, Tampa was stuck with Columbus. Washington, assuming the top 2 seeds are division winners, would be stuck with Carolina anyway. But Boston would have played Pittsburgh in the old format, and the Islanders would have played Toronto. I mean, what we got instead is, in this case, I will assume that Boston was in 3rd place. We got 3rd versus 5th, and we got 4th versus 6th. I mean, do I think it's totally the end of the world that it worked out like that? Absolutely not. But if you think about it that way, maybe the other way is better. Maybe it's not. I mean, the second round matchups are all the same. I mean, for me, either format, I'm good either way, to be honest. But, instead of Toronto and Boston having a divisional matchup and the Islanders and Pittsburgh having a divisional matchup, it would have definitely been different. Boston would have played Pittsburgh, Toronto would have played the Islanders. You never know. Maybe Pittsburgh could upset Boston, or maybe Toronto might be better suited against the New York Islanders. We'll never know. Not that it matters. I mean, these teams lost at the end of the day. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, it could be different, but it could be different under the same format too. I mean, there's 2 sides to every coin, eh? Now, if we look at the Western Conference, and here, why don't I just show you guys here the point I'm trying to get across here a little bit. Well, for and against, because I want to show both sides of the story. Why, in some cases, it might be better with the old format, and why the current one's fine too. I mean, I think it's okay. I mean, I like the old format, but the current one isn't the end of the world. The top 8 make the playoffs regardless anyway, folks. But look at the West. I mean, Calgary. Sorry to you Flames fans out there. You were stuck with Colorado either way, and you guys blew your chance to move on. On paper, you were supposed to take care of Colorado, and you certainly got a bad surprise. The Avalanche put the fire out, literally. And then, if you look at the format here, assume that Nashville had the second spot overall because, of course, division winner, eh? Nashville would have played Las Vegas in the first round instead of San Jose. San Jose would have played Dallas in the first round, and folks, Winnipeg and St. Louis would still be stuck battling each other. So that worked out totally fine. But if you're a Golden Knights fan, you might be thinking, well, if we were stuck with Nashville instead of San Jose, we might be in the second round right now. Which is possible. But it's also possible that you could have lost to Nashville too if you're a Golden Knights fan, eh? But you see what I'm saying? The matchups are under the old format would be a little bit different. I mean, in the case of Nashville having to play Las Vegas, maybe Las Vegas is still in the second round. Maybe they're still in the postseason this year. If Dallas is playing San Jose, maybe Dallas isn't in the second round anymore. I'm just throwing out what ifs. I mean, it could have been different. I mean, under the current format, I mean, if you look at it, Calgary versus Colorado, obviously Calgary's gone. Assume in this case that Nashville's second place overall. Well, they're not moving on. And then third place San Jose is the highest seeded team that's left. So third, and then St. Louis is fifth, Dallas is sixth, and Colorado is eighth. But look at it another way. I mean, you've got in the second round, or forget that I said look another way, look at it another way. I mean, in the second round anyway, we've got the St. Louis Blues playing the Dallas Stars. And in the other matchup, we've got San Jose playing Colorado. So, really, San Jose is the highest seed playing the lowest seed anyway, under the current format. But here, it's hard to hold my phone up and film that at the same time. My apologies. But when I look at the current format, Calgary was stuck with Colorado either way. And Calgary, I'm sorry to you Flames fans out there, but your team lost, would have been losing this series, and would have been stuck with Colorado either way. That's the truth. Nashville would take the second spot because they're the Central Division champions this year. They were. They would have played Las Vegas. And who knows? Maybe Las Vegas would have been able to beat Nashville. And where they couldn't beat San Jose, maybe they would have actually beat Nashville. I mean, in my opinion, that would not have surprised me. It's the Golden Knights we're talking about here. They've been, in my opinion, they've been one hell of a team since they entered the NHL. I know they weren't as good this year, but they were still good. You look at San Jose, they would have been playing Dallas in the first round, not the Golden Knights. So maybe the matchups could have ended up being a little bit different, where maybe now San Jose would be playing Las Vegas in the second round instead of the first round. And if you're a Golden Knights fan, you might be thinking, well, you know what? We might have been able to beat Nashville. In my opinion, and to you Nashville fans out there, I hope I don't sound in poor taste, but I actually think that if Nashville and the Golden Knights were playing each other in the first round, Las Vegas would still be playing. And remember, folks, I could be wrong. Just because I say what I think here doesn't mean that I'm going to be right. I mean, for all we know, if Nashville played Vegas, Nashville could have swept the Golden Knights in 4 games, for Christ's sake. You never know. It all depends on what happens in each and every game. I mean, sorry. I mean, Calgary was stuck with Colorado, and they were going to get eliminated either way. Colorado beat them fair and square. Colorado was the better team. Nashville, if they were in second place with the old format, they would have been playing Las Vegas instead of playing Dallas. So instead of a 2nd versus 6, it would have been 2nd versus 7th. San Jose would have played Dallas in the first round. And perhaps maybe Dallas is no longer in the playoffs if that were the case. Vice versa, maybe San Jose would have been eliminated by Dallas. I mean, Dallas has looked pretty decent in the playoffs so far, at least in my opinion. And of course, the cherry on the cake, Winnipeg would still be playing St. Louis anyway. So if we look at those scenarios and how they worked out, we look at the second round, well, if Nashville was playing Vegas, well, you know, say Vegas moves on, Calgary's eliminated, San Jose would play Vegas in the second round instead of the St. Louis Blues. And then in the other match, you'd still have St. Louis and... Hang on. I'm wrong. Sorry. Ignore that. Okay. Sorry, it's a lot for me to process all at once, but what would happen is, since San Jose would be the highest seed in this format, San Jose would actually be playing Colorado. And then St. Louis would be playing Las Vegas. If under the scenario that I'm assuming. Remember, I could be wrong here, but what I'm saying is that the matchups would definitely be different with some of the matchups would be different with the other format. And for myself, I mean, if you look at the current format, I mean, you've got Washington winning their division. They play the highest wild card because they had the least amount of points. They played Carolina, and Carolina blew them away. They lived up to their name of the Hurricanes and created a storm and blew them out of the playoffs. Sorry to you Caps fans out there, but you lost fair and square. Tampa Bay, record-tying amount of wins in the regular season, I believe. They got swept by Columbus. Then you had the two middlemen teams, Boston and Toronto here. Boston wins. And the Islanders, I still can't believe they swept Pittsburgh. But it happened. I mean, in the Western Conference, of course, Calgary won the conference, best season in 30 years, but you can have the best season, but it's all about what you do in the playoffs. They got swept against the lowest seeded team that made the playoffs, Colorado. They didn't get swept. They got eliminated in 5. Sorry, I was thinking about Pittsburgh and the Islanders there for a second. Then the other division winner, Nashville. What happened to them? They lost to Dallas. Congratulations to your Stars fans out there. Winnipeg versus St. Louis. St. Louis won. I expected this to happen. And then the two middle teams here. I was expecting Vegas to have no problem against San Jose. I thought they were going to actually go all the way and win the Cup this year. They're gone. And I'm shocked, for anybody wondering, that San Jose pulled that off. But here's the thing, folks. I mean, do I think the current playoff format is okay? Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's totally terrible. But what I do think is that I do like the old format better myself, because I like it being based on how high or low in the standings you finish, rather than being one of the two teams below the winner of your division every year. I also like the idea that the first round would have more variety in the matchups. under the old format if they brought it back. And for me, I think of it this way. I mean, I think it's more, in my opinion at least, and I don't expect you all to agree with me on this, but what I honestly prefer is I prefer the idea of teams being seeded or playoff matches being based on seeding or where you finish. Which, I mean, they are in the current format, but I mean overall in the standings, in the conference, instead of in your division. I don't like seeing some of the divisional matchups as often as we see them. I don't really like the idea of two really good teams in a division. Like, say one division is just way better than the other. You see the second place team in the Pacific Division, for example, and the third place team going at it in the first round. When there's some, maybe in my scenario that I'm assuming here, maybe there's two teams in the Central Division that should both be eliminated after the first round, but one of them gets to move on because the second place team plays the third place team, eh? So I like the idea of it being based on the number in the standings that you finish at, rather than being a second or third place team in your division, myself. Like, I think it's fair that the top two seeds continue to be the division winners. That's the way that I would have it. It would be just like the old format except with 4 divisions, which is totally fine as far as I'm concerned. But in this case, I mean, for you Tampa Bay and Calgary fans, I've got nothing for you. I mean, now I sound like Jeff Probst from Survivor, the TV show. But I've got nothing left for you to say. But you guys, we're going to be stuck with the teams that knocked your teams out either way. True story. Even in the old format, if Washington was second overall, they'd still be stuck playing Carolina. And they would still be getting eliminated in 7 games. But some of the other matchups would be different. Boston would be playing Pittsburgh. Who knows? Maybe Pittsburgh would have been able to beat Boston. I don't think they would have, considering the fact they were swept by the Islanders. But maybe they were. Maybe the playoffs would be different. Maybe Pittsburgh would move on. Maybe the New York Islanders would have problems with Toronto's style of play. And maybe Toronto somehow beats the Islanders. You never know. I mean, it could have gone... What I'm saying is it could have gone either way. I mean, even with the current format, things can happen. I mean, look at Calgary and Tampa Bay, for Christ's sake. I mean, and Washington and Nashville, too. Let's throw them in while we're at it. But, with the old format, you would have Boston playing Pittsburgh in the first round, and you would have had the Islanders playing Toronto in the first round. So maybe those series would have had different results. You never know. I think it's more fair myself when the playoffs are based on where you finish in the standings overall in the conference than within your division. I think it's a little bit more fair in my opinion, but I don't expect everyone to agree. Like, I like the idea of it not just being divisional matchups. Like, I actually think I would have preferred, to be honest, seeing Boston playing Pittsburgh in the first round instead of Toronto. I would have preferred seeing the Islanders playing Toronto. And, of course, Washington and Tampa Bay, they would have been stuck in their situation that they've got themselves into this year either way. But if you look at the Western Conference now, I mean, you would have still had Calgary and Colorado. That wouldn't change. Nashville would have been second overall, but they would have been playing Las Vegas instead of Dallas. San Jose, on the other end, would have been playing Dallas in the first round instead of the second round. Or sorry, they're playing Colorado. My apologies. I made a mistake there. But if you look at the format, I mean, Calgary would play Colorado either way. Nashville, though, would have played the Golden Knights. And you want to know something? I would not have been surprised had the other format been used if Las Vegas would still be in the playoffs right now. San Jose would have played Dallas. And if San Jose would have played Dallas, I actually would not have been surprised. I would honestly say that Dallas would probably not be in the second round. I think that San Jose could beat Dallas. I do. I mean, Nashville and the Golden Knights, with how good the Golden Knights have been, I honestly think that they would have been able to beat Nashville. I mean, I'm in shock that they lost to San Jose. But if they played Nashville, I would not be surprised if they would still be in the second round right now, or still in the playoffs. I mean, I could be wrong, of course. And to you Nashville fans, I hope I don't sound like I'm being in poor taste here, because, I mean, I could very well be wrong. But on the other side of the coin, too, I mean, if Nashville didn't have to play Dallas and they played Las Vegas, maybe Nashville's still in it, too. I mean, it could go any way, whether it's this format that we've got now or the old one. But for me, for my closing argument, what I like about the old format better is that it isn't as divisionally based. I like the idea of it being based on where you finish in the standings overall, rather than based on where your seedings are based on division, on which division you're in. Where Nashville would have played, just trying to think here, where Vegas would have played San Jose in the first round, well, with the other format, it wouldn't just be based on division, on being in the second and third seeds in your division. It would be overall. So San Jose would have played Dallas, and of course Las Vegas would have played Nashville. The Golden Knights would have played the Predators, and the Sharks would have played Dallas. In the East, instead of having the Islanders and Pittsburgh smashed together in the first round, you would have had Pittsburgh playing Boston, and you would have had the Islanders playing Toronto. I mean, the current format's fine the way it is, in my opinion. It's not totally terrible, but I do like the other format better myself. And I know it's a matter of opinion, but I like the idea of there being more variety in matchups in the first round myself. And on top of that, I also like the idea of not just having the first round, two of the first round matchups in each conference based on the 2 and 3 seeds in the divisions. I think it would be a little bit more fair overall if it was based on the overall seeding, where the two division winners hold the top two spots in each conference, and then the other seeds are, of course, decided on how many points the teams have. At least in my opinion, of course. And folks, once again, I do not expect you all to agree with me on this. I like the old format better, but you may very well disagree. And if you do, folks, I want you to know I totally understand, and it's totally okay. It's totally cool with me. But anyways, you guys, after talking for a little bit north of a half an hour now, I will call it a wrap on this video. I hope you guys did enjoy this, and I would really like to hear how you guys feel about it, because it's not just... I know that this is not just about what I think. I really enjoy being able to hear what other people think on this, because hearing different ideas, in my opinion, is really... I think it's cool. I mean, it's nice to be able to hear what other people think, because what I may think about it may not be the way you think. And I enjoy the idea of hearing how other people feel overall. And I wouldn't mind using this video as a chance to see how you guys feel and other people besides myself feel about this format situation that we have now. But anyways, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sorry about how long it was, but I really wanted to share my thoughts on this. As always, you guys, take care. And of course, as always, bye for now.